So they decided to leave the negotiating table. We didn't leave the negotiating table. We are still at the negotiating table. We negotiated not a 2-page document and a photo op. We negotiated a 150-page document. We derive our security from our people. So it is very important for us to keep the people satisfied with what we're doing. We're not saying that we're a perfect country. We're better than most of your allies, but we are still have a long way to go. I mean, still 51% say we should stay in the deal. That may change. If the United States were to come in the course of their fight with China and told Europe, stop dealing with China, what would you do? Well, whatever you want to do then, do now in order to prevent that eventuality, because a bully will get bullier if you succumb. Does Iran have to simply lie dead because some people don't want us to be able to defend ourselves?
Called in Iran not to develop ballistic missiles.
No,
so
it didn't.
Talking about
it
urged
my friend, I negotiated 2231, so I know every word of it. It called upon Iran. It didn't demand Iran.
It did
not,
Iran, yes.
Not to develop, so it's something different, not to develop ballistic missiles that are designed to be capable. Every word of it took months to negotiate. Designed to be capable. There are $100 billion of weapons going to Iran. Nobody is selling us a single fighter jet. Nobody. How are we supposed to defend ourselves? When we were attacked by French Exocet missiles, by German chemical weapons, by Russian MiG fighters, by British tanks, by American AWACS surveillance, who came to our assistance? I am not going, for the pleasure of my friend, Minister Le Drian, or anybody else, to make our people defenseless so that the next Saddam Hussein in our region could rise up and kill our people without the means of our defense. If we were to negotiate about armaments, Europe has a lot to respond to. Europe is not going to be in the Inquisition seat. I think it is important for the international community to rise up and say that this is not jungle. Does Iran have the right to defend itself? And if we have the right to defend ourselves, do we do it with swords? First of all, the arrest of the person who is charged with the Villepin bombing happened on the day of arrival of our president in Europe after many months of preparation. Do you think we're really crazy that we do this on the day? At least we do it the day before, the day after, 10 days after, wouldn't die. Now, the Netherlands made allegations. They kicked out 2 of my diplomats, career foreign ministry officials, and now their intelligence is saying that they had no evidence. There are people in Europe who have been on Europe's terrorism list up until 2012. What happened all of a sudden that they were withdrawn from the terrorism list? In 1984, let me take you back a bit in history. In 1984,
unfortunate date to use, but let's. Yeah.
The United States removed.
Hold on.
The United States removed Saddam Hussein from its terrorism list and put Iran on terrorism list. Again, in 1990, Saddam Hussein was put back on the terrorism list.
We cannot keep going back to Saddam Hussein.
In 1998, the United States put MEK on the terrorism list. In 2012, they took it off the terrorism list. This is a game. This game needs to stop. A terrorist is a terrorist is a terrorist. I think the United States administration is not doing anything but regime change. Only regime change. We had an empire.
Okay, let's not go back to history. Okay, let's keep
more than the lives of some countries. Certainly some people are looking for war. We are in Syria.
Who is looking?
Israel. Violating Lebanon's airspace and shooting into Syria is a violation of international law. And in the international community, and of all people, Europe, which believes international law is the foundations of international order, is blaming us and not blaming the Israelis. Risk is great, but risk will be even greater if you continue to turn a blind eye to severe violations of international law. Let's say we live in a jungle, and let's allow everybody. So let's not talk about human rights, because Khashoggi put human rights in the shelves. I mean, anybody who claims human rights, just remind them of Khashoggi and I'll tell you, it's gone. Let's not talk about international law, because Israeli behavior is putting international law on the shelves. US behavior is putting international law on the shelves. You are still selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. Why should I set aside Khashoggi? Let's walk down together.
Yes.
Let's not take the high moral ground, because you certainly don't have it. Without our people, we are nothing. We have an independent judiciary. The president doesn't have any power over the judiciary. We're doing all what we can. We have hundreds of thousands of dual nationals who come to Iran every year. How many of them, rightly or wrongly,
yes,
I'm not dealing with that, rightly or wrongly are in jail. Our responsibility to our citizens is something, and we have mistakes, shortcomings, excesses that we need to address. But it's not for Europe. So don't tell me that your businesses are not coming to Iran because you're concerned about human rights. I believe human rights for us is a security requirement, not a moral nicety. It's a security requirement. But I believe Europe, and certainly the United States, are not in a position. Saudi Arabia today, Saudi Arabia today in the United Nations was one of the major supporters of the human rights resolution against Iran. Is this the human rights the international community wants to uphold? If we derived our security from here, I would have been more worried. But since we derive our security from our people, I'm not at all worried.